Sigma INFJs don't need to intimidate or coerce others in order to dominate them, unlike most individuals. These intelligent, modest folks don't have to work so hard to cognitively dominate others in order to earn the respect of their fellow humans. How then do they demonstrate natural superiority without exerting any effort? Number 10, they take the lead and act first. A Sigma INFJ never commands somebody to do something without first carrying it out themselves. The Sigma INFJ does not act in this manner to wow or demonstrate their talent, but to reassure everyone that it is easy and feasible. They serve as examples of what is possible by simply moving first. Likewise, if they notice that no one in their group is taking the initiative, and no one has the guts to do so, despite sitting in the back the entire time, they won't think twice about taking the initiative once they realize that everyone else is waiting to see who wants to go first. They walk first, which naturally makes them dominant, rather than gazing around with others. Do you, an INFJ Sigma, still have the guts to take the initiative when it makes you nervous? Number 9, they pique people's interest in following rather than forcing them to do so. Ever questioned why people are drawn to and willingly subject to the authority of the Sigma INFJ? Here's the problem, though. Because the Sigma INFJ inspires others rather than imposing their beliefs on them, others naturally follow their lead. Instead of forcing their own ideals on others, they really inspire and drive people to accomplish their goals, and rigidly directing their movements. By maintaining healthy communication and enforcing limits within the group, they influence others to follow their example. People will cooperate rather than challenge their judgments in silence after they learn to lead with respect rather than fear. Number 8, the inability to refuse. Sigma INFJs have no trouble saying no, simply because they are indifferent. Nothing can be forced upon them without their full and knowing agreement. Regardless of what other people may think, if they don't want to say or do something, they just won't. Saying no can help children avoid being harmed by those who cross their boundaries, manipulate them, or try to disturb their inner calm. And because they realize that they are the only ones who genuinely care about their well-being, they believe they are not required to provide anyone an explanation. They speak appropriately and reply as they would like to be addressed. It makes sense why people respect others' decisions and refrain from interfering with them. INFJs of the Sigma type aren't compelled to follow others' instructions. Because of their inability to establish limits, they are the last to turn into slaves. Do you want to assist others in setting their boundaries as an INFJ Sigma? Number 7, they speak quietly. The ability of being assertive without being aggressive is something that many INFJs have mastered. They are skilled in speaking softly and convincingly. In actuality, this is what gives them an edge over the alpha in terms of dominance. Some alphas, however, use terror to manipulate others into following their lead. INFJs with the Sigma personality type believe that being powerful doesn't require them to display it. If there is anything that helps them feel strong, they take it along so they can continuously serve as a reminder of their potential. They constantly remind themselves of their ability to be harsh when necessary in any circumstance. They retain their delicate, soothing tone throughout discussions rather than speaking loudly and arrogantly, and everyone will eagerly listen to their insights and pay attention. They think that dominance doesn't require them to be loud and wild. All they need to do is communicate clearly and politely. Number 6, they are aware that only they have the power to hold them back. Being able to market themselves as the alpha without having to emulate the alpha is another characteristic that Sigma INFJs have that makes them more dominant than others. Sigma INFJs have a strong sense of self-worth and understand that only they have the power to prevent them from achieving their goals. They realize that if they have the determination to succeed and the patience to see things through, they will eventually succeed even if others don't approve. They don't have to wait for the go-ahead from their friends or relatives to begin working. They then become unstoppable and unmanageable as a result. Their boundlessness can intimidate and frustrate competitors. When was the last time you let someone hold you back as a Sigma INFJ? Number 5, they can defeat the bully without resorting to violence. Sigma INFJs are the most composed yet dangerous adversaries. They can watch you from a distance with an intimidating glare until you crumble in humiliation and submit to their subdued power. Without authorization, nothing can bring down the INFJ Sigma. Additionally, if someone consistently annoys them by impeding their progress and making their work harder than it already is, they establish dominance by refusing to fall for their tricks, rather than displaying vulnerability and emotional outbursts. Sigma INFJs will use overstated politeness and gentleness to control their bullies. To squash their ego, they will heap on the compliments. This perplexes their bullies because it gives them the impression that they are fighting for nothing and wasting their time. Number 4, they've got a scheme. Sigma INFJs can be dominant without having to exert any effort since they have mastered understanding and knowing what they want and where they are going. Naturally, people would respect their leadership, focused effort, consistency, and workable plans. They laid down clear and solid foundations rather than taking their company on a wild ride, so that the other projects can advance and prosper. Having conflicting feelings and signals can be dramatic and emotionally arousing. This may at first seem interesting and tempting, but it might produce subpar outcomes down the road. However, the Sigma INFJ's practical plans can give others a sense of security and assurance, letting them follow their instincts all the time. Do you think that having a strategy is preferable to trusting your fate if you're a Sigma INFJ? Number 3, they are able to adjust their viewpoints properly. One Sigma INFJs might become naturally and readily dominant due to their open-mindedness, rather than acting childishly when someone tries to correct them. They instantly express regret and accept responsibility for their errors. They take responsibility for their fix right away and instantly own up to their errors. Likewise, they make themselves teachable and adaptable rather than arguing out their points aggressively and forcefully. If they believe that others have a more accurate perception of the situation than they do, they'll accept it and make the necessary adjustments. The egos of Sigma INFJs are not their masters. Therefore, it is not surprising that they outgrow those who are conceited, self-righteous, and narrow-minded. Number 2, their fears can be conquered. The inner work of Sigma INFJs has been done their entire lives. People believe they are in charge of addressing their own internal difficulties, trauma from childhood, and emotional difficulty. Additionally, they feel responsible for confronting their irrational issues and eradicating their prejudices. As adults, they can then do so without having an impact on their relationships. Sigma INFJs are independent and mature enough to recognize their struggles and find coping mechanisms rather than suppressing them. In fact, they hold that their limiting ideas, internal problems, and unresolved concerns are the greatest worries anybody could ever have. These worries might prevent individuals from becoming the best versions of themselves. Their fears manifest as internal voices that prevent them from acting on their desires. But as an INFJ, are you certain that you have already completely conquered these fears? Number 1, they are able to politely end needless and unreasonable discussions. Not because they are at a loss for words or feel intellectually defeated, either. Instead, they simply saw that the discussion was circling back around, and they don't have a lot of time to waste on individuals who don't appear to comprehend even the most basic of their arguments. Therefore, Sigma INFJs don't care if others think they're losers. They simply cannot jeopardize their mental stability for something meaningless or ineffective. Their number 1 guideline in life is actually to never put effort or time into something that doesn't help them. Why keep something if it only causes strife, chaos and toxicity. Sigma INFJs aren't foolish. They pick their issues carefully and leave the conversation with dignity and decorum. The last to act to assert authority in social situations is a Sigma INFJ. Instead of telling everyone how respectable they are, they demonstrate it, which earns them everyone's respect. Do you acknowledge being in charge without exerting any effort? What other means do you have to make this happen?